Today, we are stepping right into the middle of a really ancient debate. And look, this isn't just about some dusty, abstract theology. It's about the very nature of the human heart. So, for a minute, let's forget the dry doctrine. I want you to picture this as a kind of divine tug of war, with your will as the ultimate prize. Okay, so let's dive in. The heart of this entire conversation, the thing everything else revolves around, is one single fundamental question. When it comes to a relationship with God, who makes that first move? Is it us reaching up from where we are, or is it God reaching down to us? And right away, that question brings up a huge problem. You see, thinkers for centuries have wrestled with this. If our nature, our default setting, is to be turned away from God, then how could we possibly find it in ourselves to even want to turn back? It's a real paradox, one that seems baked right into the human condition. To really get the weight of this problem, we have to dig into some ancient Jewish thought. There's this concept called the Yetzer Hara, which literally means the evil inclination. Now, this isn't some little devil on your shoulder. No, it's more like an internal compass that just stuck, always pointing toward ourselves. And that right there is exactly why the question of who makes the first move becomes so incredibly important. So, what's the solution? Well, the first answer we're going to look at is the Calvinist one, which is often called irresistible grace. And it proposes a type of grace that is so powerful, it doesn't just invite you, it fundamentally transforms you. And what's so fascinating is how this idea is framed. This isn't about God forcing someone against their will. The prophet Ezekiel paints this picture of the divine heart transplant. It's God not just trying to persuade a heart of stone to change, but literally removing it and replacing it with a living, beating heart of flesh. The term for this is the effectual call. Think about it like this: there's a general call of the gospel that goes out to everybody, kind of like a radio broadcast playing for anyone who might tune in. But the effectual call, that's a targeted internal work of the Holy Spirit. It's God performing that divine surgery, what the scriptures even call a circumcision of the heart, that actually makes you want to respond to Him. So the sequence here is absolutely crucial. First, God acts. He breathes life into a will that was spiritually dead. Then, second, He changes our desires. It's not about being dragged somewhere you don't want to go. It's about your eyes being opened to see God as so beautiful, so desirable, that any other choice just seems unthinkable. And only then, third, do we respond freely, joyfully, running toward Him. All right, so that's one really powerful perspective. But let's shift gears and look at the other side of this debate, the Arminian answer. This view describes a grace that doesn't so much transform the will as it enables it. Now, this idea is built on a concept called prevenient grace. It's a bit of a theological term, but it just means grace that goes before. The thinking here is that God gives a measure of grace to every single person on earth. It doesn't automatically save them, but it does heal their will just enough to give them back the genuine ability to choose for or against God. And this analogy just illustrates the idea perfectly. In this picture, God is the guard who comes to your cell and takes the initiative to unlock your chains. He makes freedom possible for you. But that final step, the choice to actually stand up and walk out of the cell, that's left to you. Grace is offered, but it can be resisted. So when you put them side by side like this, the differences become really clear. For Calvinism, we're spiritually dead, so God has to give us the gift of faith. For Arminianism, we're gravely ill, so God offers us the gift. And this all leads to the ultimate question: why does one person believe and another doesn't? For the Calvinist, the answer is God's sovereign choice. For the Arminian, it's the person's response. So, where does the rubber meet the road for these two systems? Well, the ultimate stress test is found in the New Testament in the book of Hebrews, which has these really intense passages that warn believers about the danger of falling away. The author is writing to this community that's under enormous pressure to just give up and abandon their faith. And the warnings are, they're stark, they're serious, but they raise the one critical question that totally divides these two camps. Is it actually possible for someone who has been genuinely saved to ultimately lose that salvation? From the Arminian perspective, the answer is yes, it is a real danger. The logic is that because grace was resistible at the beginning, it stays resistible throughout your life. Salvation is a relationship that needs your ongoing cooperation. And so, your security ultimately depends on you continuing to hold on your grip on the high priest. But the Calvinist view flips this completely. If grace was irresistible in the first place, if God performed that divine surgery on your heart, then he is not going to let his work fail. So those warnings in Hebrews, they aren't describing something that could actually happen to a true believer. They're the very tool God uses to startle and preserve his people. In this view, your security depends entirely on the high priest's unbreakable grip on you. You know, at the end of the day, this entire debate really boils down to one of the most timeless tensions in all of philosophy and theology: the relationship between God's total sovereignty and real, genuine human freedom. And this is not just a Christian Reformation debate. Not at all. This ancient rabbinic saying from the Ethics of the Fathers just captures the paradox perfectly. For thousands of years, thinkers have held these two ideas in tension. God foresees and knows everything, and yet we are still genuinely responsible for the choices we make. So, really, it all comes down to how you define freedom. Is true freedom having the ability to choose between A and B, what you could call the power of contrary choice? Or is true freedom being liberated from the bondage of that flawed will, so that you are finally, joyfully able to choose what is good and true and beautiful? And that's really the question we'll leave you with. What is true freedom? Is it the wide open field of endless possibilities, the ability to choose anything at all? Or is it more like a compass needle that's finally been unstuck from its selfish bias and is now able to swing joyfully and inevitably toward its true north?